Alabama. In the town of Madison, there is a playground that is said to be super haunted. During the day, it looks very unassuming, maybe a little run down, like it could use a coat of paint or maybe an updated slide. But once the sun sets, it is no longer a semi-safe place for your kids to play. It becomes a place where the spirits of lost children come to have a good time. There have been several ghosts that have been spotted, but the most popular seems to be a brother and sister holding hands as they run laps around the perimeter of the park. As for the other ghosts, it seems like most of them laugh and play all over the park. People who live close to this playground say they can hear the sounds of giggling children coming from the park. But there are nights when it feels like there's a little bit of darkness in the air, and you can hear the sounds of screaming children. One person said it sounded like a child being tortured. Sometimes it gets so bad people will go over to the park to investigate, but nothing has ever been found. At number 9 we have Drone Park. Drones are some of the scariest technology in recent years. Flying robots that can be used for pretty much anything. When you give that power to a human being, they almost always use it for evil. That's what happened at this cursed park in Akron, Ohio. It was just a few years ago, back in 2017. Kids started noticing a drone that was flying close to the park. It didn't seem to have any photographic capabilities, so kids weren't afraid of people taking their picture, but what the drone did have was a speaker, and it started flying down close to the kids, trying to talk to them and lure them off the playground. Thankfully, the kids were smart and knew not to follow this drone and quickly told someone, but the pilot of the drone was never found, which is very frightening. These creeps are starting to get better tech. A playground doesn't need to have something supernatural to be cursed, it just needs some weirdo to make it dangerous. At number 8 we have more ghost kids. We're doing a list of cursed playgrounds. You can bet that there's going to be a lot of ghost kids on this list. And the DeSoto Grade School Playground in Illinois is packed full of them. Back in the 1920s, 300 students and teachers died at this school. There was a violent tornado that was ripping through the town. Everyone went into the basement to try and shelter themselves from the storm, but it was not enough. Now the ghosts have been seen all over the property. Sometimes people will hear children laughing, and other people have said they've heard children screaming out saying it's coming. At number 7 we have the Rhode Island Haunted Swing. You guys might have already heard about this one because the video went super viral a couple years ago. Everyone was going bananas over the ghost that took a visit to a playground and was apparently very bad at riding a swing. Is that proper English? Riding a swing? Or is it swinging a swing? Who knows? Just take a look at this video.
There's no wind out here right now.
No one on it either.
Look, there's nobody on it.
It's just moving.
There's no wind. Look at the other swings. And look at
I love how even in the face of the supernatural, that dad remains 100% New York. It does look very strange. All the other swings aren't moving at all, and the dad in the video claims that there is no wind on the playground. But if there is a ghost in that seat, it does look like they're riding the swing completely the wrong way. Also, there's a few videos out there that debunk this video, so I'm gonna leave it up to you at home to decide. Do you actually think it was a windy day and the people filming just didn't notice? Do you think it could be a possible prank video? Or is this clear evidence that something spooky is happening? Let me know in the comments. At number 6 we have the Sunland Hospital, Orlando, Florida. On these abandoned hospital grounds there is a playground that has a very dark past. The hospital has gone through a lot of changes over the years, each one of them more gruesome than the last. At first it was a place where people would be sent who were dying from tuberculosis. It was supposed to be for treatment, but back then TB was a death sentence. So basically it was just a home filled with diseased people waiting to die. Once the plague of tuberculosis started to die down, the hospital was converted into an insane asylum. The living conditions were so horrendous and there were so many reports of inhumane experiments taking place on the patients. Eventually the whole place was shut down, but the building still stands along with the playground. Horrible screams can be heard coming from the grounds at night, and people have said they've seen glowing orbs floating around the swings. What is it with ghosts and swings? They love swings. At number 5 we have the Haunted Swing in Delhi. I'm gonna kick off number 5 by just showing you this clip. Let's have a look. That one is so freaky because you see the swing start swinging, and it's not like you can blame the wind or something on this one. There's another swing right next to it that isn't moving at all. So either this is some very selective wind, a cheap trick, or we have a ghost really going on this swing. And the two men filming it sound like they're legitimately afraid of when the swing starts going all on its own. I don't have a backstory on this property, so I can't give you details on what would have happened to make this playground haunted. It could be the ghost of a child who was murdered there, who knows? Or it could be some ghost who was just walking through town and was like, hey, a cool swing, I haven't used a swing in like 200 years. At number 4 we have the hanging bodies. I feel like we can just stop with the description right there. If you see hanging bodies at a playground, that's definitely going to ruin your day. And that isn't all that's going on at the Hummel Playground and Park in Omaha, Nebraska. There have been all sorts of ghosts that have been seen all over the park, but the most famous are the dead bodies that have been seen hanging from ropes and then vanish after you look away. People think that these could be ghosts of people that may have been lynched there in the past. Other people think that they are dark spirits that have been summoned from people performing animal sacrifices in the park. That's a real thing that has been happening. Holy moly, this just keeps getting worse. Maybe you should just take your kids to Chuck E. Cheese instead. Just skip the park. At number 3 we have Master Splinter. I think a playground in London might have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles living below it because it seems like a maintenance worker found Master Splinter on this playground. Here's the thing, rats don't gross me out, so this picture doesn't really bother me, but I understand that rats can be a phobia for a lot of people. What I'm worried about is the kids playing on the playground. There are some rats running around that could eat your kid. Those rats are huge. Like if we were placing bets on who would win in a fight, that rat or 4-year-old, I would put $2 grand on the rat, no questions asked. At number 2 we have Cemetery Playground. Why not build a playground on top of an old cemetery? The ground's just sitting there anyways, might as well put it to use. Well, in Fremont, Nebraska, some city planners decided that they wanted to kill 2 birds with 1 stone when they constructed a shiny new playground on top of some old graves. Turns out when you do something like that, the ghosts will use it more than the kids do. The ghost of a crying woman has been seen sitting on a bench in the park. She's probably super sad because someone smashed her shiny new headstone. At number 10 we have Ponderosa Park, Verdona, Arizona. A playground is supposed to be a vibrant place that kids can come to play safely. Not a scene pulled right out of an apocalypse movie that looks like it'll give you tetanus just from looking at it. The Ponderosa Park is so spooky. It has been neglected for years and just the picture of it makes me feel like I am the last man on earth. Every piece of it is run down. The wood on the basketball backboards are faded and chipped away. The monkey bars and merry-go-round have been rusted over and the grass has decided to make this place its new home, but even the grass is yellow like it attempted to live there and then had the life sucked out of it. Most of the swings are broken and there have been reports of a boy wandering around the park at night. It's unknown if the boy might be real or a ghost. No one has worked up the courage to go up and talk to him, mostly because when people say they try to, he vanishes as soon as you get close, so I think it's safe to say that he's probably a ghost. At number 9 we have the Alpine Coaster in Tennessee, USA. This is basically a super playground. This isn't some place you go that has one of those horses on a spring just going around back and forth. No, this playground is almost like a mini amusement park with less rules. The Alpine Coaster is the longest downhill track in all of America. Basically a slide that has a cart on it that's also on a track. These carts move. They can reach speeds up to 30 miles an hour. That's nearly 50 kilometers an hour. You can't ride one of these puppies in a school zone. I'm just saying, it goes super fast. And not to mention that these things have multiple carts on them, so when someone's going down they can crash into the cart in front of them that will send them flying off the cart and into a sand ditch. So basically this playground is half cursed and half the most fun thing you could do as a kid. You just have to decide. I wouldn't be surprised if after this video goes up Johnny Knoxville rides this thing and brutally injures himself. We should all tweet at him to get him to do it. It would be exciting. There were a few serious injuries back in 2016 where in just 1 month 3 separate kids needed to leave on stretchers. So basically go to this place at your own risk. At number 8 we have Cementland in St. Louis, Missouri. Right off the bat that doesn't sound like a fun time. Hey kids, want to go to Cementland? Make sure you wear your mask so you don't breathe in any of the toxic fumes. They will make your lungs super hard. Well, this place isn't that dangerous that you can't even breathe there, but it's still a place you would never want to bring your kids. This place was the dream of a man with a very noble idea. It was supposed to be a park made to teach kids the importance of recycling by using only repurposed material. That's a pretty cool idea. The environment is a very important thing, guys, but the man who was in charge of the whole project, who was also the owner of the land, died before he was able to see his dream come true. Now the place just sits there as a massive death trap. There are no railings on any of the walkways, giant blocks of rocks, exposed metal, and loose dirt all over the place. place, and it's reported that the man who dreamt of the park, Bob Castelli, died in the park, and his ghost walks around looking for ways he can finish the park. So this one is deadly and haunted. The perfect combo. At number 7 we have Booth Memorial Park in Stratford, Connecticut. This place seems like it would be such a nice, cute place. So much of it is right. There are swings, a slide, and one of those things you can hang on that spins super fast and sends you flying like you got shot out of a cannon. I love when kids jump on those. So what makes this place cursed? Oh well, it was built right next to a cemetery. What is it with people building playgrounds right next to cemeteries? That seems like a no-brainer. Don't put these two things together. But we had 2 on the last list, and then we already have 1 on this list. I mean, if I was a ghost in a cemetery and I saw kids dancing around a playground, I would 100% haunt them. I would be so bitter. I'd be like, look at those stupid kids with their whole life to live. I'm gonna go scare them and do irreversible psychological damage. There have been reports of ghosts that will walk through the playground, knocking on different parts, trying to get people's attention. Also, if you look into the next door graveyard, you might see a shadow monster hovering around. So cute, plan your next trip there. At number 4 we have the Grand Canyon Swing. Okay, I'm just gonna show you guys this one in a video, and then you can make a judgment call on this one and understand why it's cursed. Yeah, I don't know if you can call this a playground, but it's certainly an attraction for kids, so I think the two go together, and it's something I'll say no thank you to. I don't need that in my life. Never. I'm saying this one is cursed and we're moving on, okay? That's enough. I'm never doing anything like that. I don't need to poop my guts out when I'm swinging a swing. No thank you. At number 3 we have Action Park. This park was so famously dangerous that they made a movie about the construction and opening of it, and it starred the aforementioned Johnny Knoxville, and we know that guy loves to get hurt. That's how you know a place is dangerous. There's a combination of a few things that made this place cursed. Most of the people who went to the park were wasted. They got super drunk. There was little to no safety inspections. The staff was poorly trained. And it was in New Jersey. Ugh, I'm just kidding, I love you guys in New Jersey. But la pièce de résistance was the slide called the Cannonball Loop. Picture a slide that does a loop completely closed. In theory, crazy fun idea. But in reality, you end up smashing into the opposite sides as you go through the loop and severely hurt yourself. Now this park has been closed down and you can't go there anymore. If it was still open, it would definitely be number 1 on this list. And just a little extra to sprinkle on this, 6 people died at this park. At number 2 we have Spring Farm in Sydney, Australia. This place has been nicknamed Sunstroke Park. Right off the bat, you know you're gonna have a good time after you get the IV in your arms so you can get all those fluids put back into your body. Basically, they built a park in Australia, which is one of the hottest countries in the world, and they didn't put any trees or roofs or any objects to shield the children away from the sun. So kids are tasked with playing in the direct heat like they're crossing the Sahara. On top of that, there's some pieces on the playground that are painted with black paint, and I don't know if you know this, but black attracts heat. So there are parts of the playground that get so hot they will burn kids that touch them. I think it's safe to say if you want to check out this park, you should do it in the middle of the winter. Any other time you would have to bring aloe vera and get ready to soothe all of your burns. Well, actually apple cider vinegar is good for sunburns just because it's technically a chemical burn. See, sometimes you actually learn things on this channel, huh? And for the number 1 spot, we have the Weccacoe Playground in Philadelphia, USA. So guys, I'm gonna one-up myself on this one. This isn't just a playground built next to a cemetery. They went ahead and built the bad boy right on top of a cemetery. Why beat around the bush and pretend you don't want it to be haunted? Just jump ahead and get the whole thing infected with ghosts until the end of time. Get the little kids dancing on the dead bodies. And this isn't just any old burial site. The Mother Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church was using this spot for a long time. This has been the resting place for bodies of people who have passed on to the other side since the 1800s, and that means there is a good chunk of deceased that have made this place their final resting place. Now, how many people do you think are buried here? 400 people? 500 people? Think even higher. 900 people? Well, if you guessed anything close to that, you are way off. I'm gonna tell you that there are over 5,000 people underneath this playground. Just go for a stroll through this place and see what happens. I promise you won't be alone. At number 9 we have Fermat, Argentina. Okay, this next one might hold some sort of record as the longest haunting I've ever seen continuously. It's crazy. I can't think of a place that has one ghost doing the same thing for so long. The playground in Fermat, Argentina has a ghost on it that's been doing the same thing for over 5 years, day in and day out. It is constantly on the swing, just swinging. Even when people come to stop the swing from moving, sure enough the thing will start moving again and just swing and never ever stop. Don't believe me? Let's have a look at this clip. As I mentioned before, you can walk up this thing and you can stop it. Someone at the start of the video did that so you know it's not a hoax. And there's a ton of people just standing in the back watching this ghost swing move. Apparently this is from a ghost boy who died while the playground was being constructed, and now he lives out his dreams every day, just swinging day in and day out. Well, I mean, he doesn't live out his dreams, you know what I mean. At number 8 we have more ghosts. Now I couldn't get a lot of info on this one, I just found the clip on YouTube and I decided that it fit the bill. I wanted you at home to take a look and tell me what you thought.
I wasn't moving earlier. I got moving, wow. It's moving. Let's see.
So this one is a little suspicious. I think that spring chair thing in the video is moving, but what if the person filming just pulled the spring thing and then it started moving in place all on its own and then they started the video? It could have been staged, but I'm going to give this one the benefit of the doubt and say the person was legitimately creeped out by what was going on in this video. If not, there's only a few thousand views, so they're not tricking the whole world. This isn't like the Illuminati trying to convince us that himself. That's a trick that none of us will fall for, but also none of us will do anything about because none of us want to die. At number 7 we have Barrel of Fun. Have you ever wanted to know what it's like to have your ribs shatter against a metal tube? Is walking and breathing too easy and you would like something to make it more challenging? Well, let me introduce you to Barrel of Fun. The article suggests that the playground isn't complete without this steel drum that kids could walk on. I could picture some kid trying to show off by balancing on the Barrel of Fun and then slip and their face meets that barrel, which is made of steel, and blood shoots out of their nose like someone just ran over a ketchup bottle. At number 6 we have Pennsylvania Park, Pittsburgh, USA. Alright, I'm going to go back in time again, and once again it is the early 20th century. It seems like it was a hot spot for playgrounds that kids loved but their bone structures didn't. All of these kids' knees were probably like, please stop jumping from 8 feet in the air, you're gonna make me explode. Look at this mayhem on this playground. If you're a parent, I promise you that this picture will give you a panic attack. Look at all that. That place was probably cranking out more CTE than an NFL coach who wants to keep his best player in the game. There's one kid who's just straight up hanging from his legs on one of those rope thingies and he's just swinging back and forth like a pendulum. I bet some other kid came running through and they smacked into each other like those metal balls that every villain keeps in his office that go like But don't worry about picking up your baby teeth, Timmy. They were gonna fall out anyways. At number 5, we have My Poor Armpits. I just want to show you a shot from this playground in Boston so you can process it for a little bit. So the way this thing worked was you climb to the top, you hook your arms over top of the wooden beams, and then you slide down. But let me repeat that those beams are made of wood. Not only would this put a massive strain on your underarms, but there would also be a good chance that a splinter the size of a hunting knife would get lodged in your tricep. And that's only if you could hold on all the way to the bottom. There's also the chance that you would fall 10 feet right onto your back, get the wind knocked out of you, and then get a pinched vertebrae as an extra bonus. At number 4, we have Hooper Spring Park in Idaho. More ghosts just walking around ruining the park for all of us living people. Like I was just trying to enjoy myself on this swing and now I peed everywhere and I just bought these pants. Well, the playground in Hooper Spring Park is said to have many spirits roaming around the area. Apparently people have seen ghostly figures walking close to the swings. Some people have said that the tales of ghostly things happening are just a hoax to get more people to come to the park. But I'm okay with that. The existence of ghosts is still unknown. We don't exactly know what's going on there. So using that lack of information as a marketing strategy, brilliant. At number 3, we have A Long Way Down. Now, I'm not an architect or a school planner or have any sort of construction experience at all, but I do think that this whole setup is a bad idea. I mean, if you want to get rid of your kids, just send them to boarding school or something. Is boarding school still a thing? Well, regardless, take a look at this photo. I hope that's just a holding area until they find a good spot to put that playground. The slide is literally right on the edge. You would slide off into the air and then fall 3 stories right onto concrete. I do like that little plastic palm tree in the back though. It gives a nice beach vibe to the whole little playground setup. It really makes you want to relax before you get the worst concussion you've ever had and never walk the same again. At number 2, we have Whaley's Playground in Williamsburg, Virginia. There's a very dark past attached to this playground. How many ghost kids does it take to make a playground creepy? Well, just one, or even half of one is enough. Just like a pair of ghost legs running around and kicking people in the shins, that's creepy. But Whaley's Elementary School has a few ghosts that have kicked up the spooky factor. Matthew Williams was a 9-year-old boy and then tragically died. His mom wanted his memory to live on, and she pushed to have a nearby school that was being built named after him, which everyone thought was a beautiful idea. But after the school was built, his ghost showed up. People have seen the little boy's ghost walking around for years, and it makes sense. He's probably like, my name is on this place, I own it, it's mine, what's for lunch in the cafeteria? And for our number 1 spot, we have the Devil's Playground in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Here's a swell idea. Build a playground on top of a school that burned to the ground so died have something to play on in the afterlife, and they can make friends with the kids who are alive who come to play there. That's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. That's the myth behind the haunted playground in Calgary that has been nicknamed the Devil's Playground. I don't think a lot of kids actually play there. It's probably just more of a hangout for gothic teens. Well, apparently a whole bunch of strange hauntings go on at this cursed park. People will see and hear kids running around who vanish into thin air. Sometimes bones of small animals will be found around the park, always laid out like they've been used in some sort of ritual. And if you park your car close to the playground, you might come back to see small handprints all over like a bunch of kids just touched it. Ooh. At number 10, we have There's Such a Thing as Too Much Fun. We are going to kick off this one by showing you what a playground used to look like before everyone had TVs in their home. Oh my god, that looks like mayhem. Could you imagine waiting 20 minutes in a line to go down a slide? That's insane. Playgrounds were actually all the rage back then. But the reason I put this on the cursed list is because this would freak out any parent nowadays. Just throwing your kid out there with that many other kids? What if they got kidnapped? Or even worse, what if they came in contact with a snack that wasn't prepared with a dairy substitute and they actually ate some dairy? Oh my god, it would be over. But really, it's just mayhem. I can't think of anything worse or more stressful than a place with hundreds of kids running wild. I think it's a form of torture in some countries. At number 9, we have hand-powered terror. All you need is a running start and you got enough lift to take yourself 6 feet in the air. For the love of God, don't let go or you are gonna meet the pavement so hard your nose is gonna become best friends with your brainstem. Most of those girls in that picture are horizontal off the ground. One wrong move and you are gonna go to the ground faster than the Flash does a lap around the world. Also, what happens if you slow down? You're just gonna go straight forward. And what's waiting for you? A massive metal pole. Nothing about this situation looks like fun. There's no wonder why I haven't seen these on a modern playground. At number 8, we have It's a Trap. I don't know if you can even call this a playground. It's something you can play on and it's on the ground, so I guess it qualifies, but this place just looks so creepy. This playground looks like a trap you would set up for some kids. Like, let's have a look at this picture. That aerial shot just shows you how it's in the middle of nowhere and it's just this one little rickety playground thing. That's it. I would never let my kid play on this playground. It looks like the whole thing was put on a pit of quicksand. Not to mention that there's tire marks all around the park. I wonder why those are there. It could be parents that have been dropping their kids off right next to this weird creepy park. Or could it be a windowless van that's been swooping in and snatching kids up? I think the latter is a more likely answer. At number 7, we have the Trapeze Blueprint. The title sounds like it should be the name of my non-existent debut rap album, but it's actually the blueprint for a playground. Take a look at this picture and let me know if you see anything that's a little out of the ordinary. scary. It seems like everything is normal. You start with swings, then you have ladders, the kind of stuff you would see on a normal playground. But then, at the end, all the way to the right, you have a trapeze swing. The kind of thing you just hold on to for dear life and hope your grip doesn't fail you, and hope that your grip strength is enough so you don't swing off and slam onto your back like you got thrown through a table by the Big Show. Who thought this was a good idea to let kids play on something like that? They have such little hands. They can't hold on to something like that for so long. As soon as they hit the maximum swing, they're gonna go flying, and that's gonna be the last time Jimmy knows how to spell properly. At number 6, we have the Pennyhurst School and Asylum. If there's anything all these lists have taught me, is that you need to check the history of a playground before you send your kids to play there, because it might seem normal, but then you might find out that the land used to be used for an asylum. Yeah, tell that to your kids, and I don't think they're gonna be too excited to swing on the swings. There is a playground sitting in that exact spot at the Pennyhurst School and Asylum. This place was horrible. It was open for most of the 20th century, and it was known for how badly it would treat everyone who was forced to be there. Experimental testing would go on all the time, and when patients started to complain about how poorly they were being treated, they would be tied down and neglected until they broke mentally. The place has long since been closed down, but some of the most angry ghosts in history have decided not to leave. They will walk around the playground at night. It's common for people to hear disembodied voices that scream out. Not the best environment for kids. At number 5, we have the sideways swing. At first glance, this looks like it would be so much fun. I mean, just look at this thing. You could pack an entire group onto that swing and have a great time. The thing would rock back and forth, and the more people you pack onto that thing, the more force you would have swinging back and forth. And you know what it really looks like? It looks like a medieval battering ram, and that's why it's on this list of cursed playgrounds. What do kids love to do while they're playing? The answer is pay attention to nothing that's going on around them. So what ended up happening with this thing is you had kids running at full speed while the sideways swing was coming in with enough power to break into the city of Troy. Then it would meet the face of a kid and invent CTE in that moment. Yeah, it only took a few concussions before these things were never seen on playgrounds again. At number 4, we have the motorcycle merry-go-round. This playground is cursed because these guys are here. You don't want your kids to hang out with these guys unless they're training for the space program. Then these dudes might actually help. You might have seen this video before, but for some reason these guys got the bright idea of combining a merry-go-round with the motor of a crotch rocket. Let's go! I know this is supposed to be bad, and for everyone watching, don't do anything like this at home, but I am so happy that this video exists because it is awesome. I could watch this guy fly out of the merry-go-round again and again and again. He looked like he was programmed by Valve to have ragdoll physics all day long. If there's anything we should learn from this video, is that if your friends want you to do something crazy like that, you should offer to be the cameraman. It's the best spot in the house. At number 2, we have the Eloise Asylum Park. Now we're going to head over to Michigan. I don't know why this happens, but for some reason asylums seem to attract both ghosts and playgrounds, which are two things that should never be put together. That's such a horrible combination. Hey, you want to go on the swings? There's the ghost of a man who went so insane he ate his own feet. Yeah, sure, why not? I'm not doing anything. Well, the Eloise Asylum in Michigan used to be one of the largest facilities in America to help anyone with a mental disorder. Over time, the place eventually got smaller and smaller. Eventually, everything that had to do with the asylum was closed down and demolished, and all that was left behind was a playground so creepy that Jason Voorhees wouldn't play on it. The place is now a hotspot for the ghosts of the hundreds of people who used to call this area home. Walk through this place at night and you're almost guaranteed to hear a blood-curdling scream come out of a creepy fog. That's a fun way to spend a Friday night. At number 1, we have Dolly Parton's Blazing Fury. Amusement parks and playgrounds go hand in hand, and I'll tell you what doesn't go hand in hand: Dolly Parton and amusement parks. Dollywood is a Dolly Parton owned and themed amusement park, and there's one part of this park, Blazing Fury, that is supposed to simulate a building burning down. While going through this section, one person sustained a major head injury and needed to be hospitalized. After going to the hospital, it was confirmed that the person would have long-term brain damage. So he did what most people do when they are seriously hurt, by an amusement park, or anything for that matter. He sued the place. The trial is still ongoing, but the crazy part is that the ride is still open to the public. So if you want to risk having your head caved in for some cold hard cash, then you should head over there because the opportunity is available. Coming at number 10, we have make your own playground. Here's something I never considered for an abandoned playground. You take a place that is abandoned and then you turn it into a playground. YouTuber Katie McDonald took her crew of parkour and trick skill professionals who range from slackliners to skateboarders, and then she went to an abandoned shipyard to make it into a place where you could have some fun. Well, they call it fun because they seem like the thrill-seeking type, but this kind of stuff makes me want to curl up into a ball and wish I was back at home. Just take a look at this clip. Yeah, they are definitely making the most fun out of that place, but I think if I was slacklining over an empty warehouse and the fall would mean I would splat on the ground like an old tomato getting kicked against a brick wall, I would be clenching that rope like you're clenching your bumhole when you're stuck in traffic and you gotta poo. Alright, coming in at number 9, we have the abandoned Burger King. Now this one isn't the scariest one on the list at first glance. It honestly took me a second to get a real chill from this place, but once you look at it for long enough, it really starts to feel eerie. YouTuber Abandoned Underground went through a Burger King that had been abandoned and took a look at the play place. And the place hasn't been left for so long that it's become a rusted mess, but it looks like it's been sitting there for at least a few years. When you just take a quick peek at it, it just seems empty, like it would look after it was closed. But the fact that it's daytime makes it feel so much creepier and cursed. It feels like it was pulled right out of a zombie movie. Like this would be the scene where the guy walks into the Burger King and no one's in there, but he still doesn't know what's going on. Then eventually he explores and some zombie jumps out and starts eating his face. Coming at number 8, we have Luna Park in France. Playgrounds don't always mean a slide and a couple swings. When you get into the big leagues, you start to take kids to amusement parks, which I absolutely love. Roller coasters are one of my most favorite things in the world. You just get tossed around, you feel the shot of adrenaline go through your body as you rush down the tracks. It truly is amazing. Now, what happened at Luna Park in France would have for sure given you a shot of adrenaline, but not the kind that you would be looking for. There was a massive accident that happened on one of these rides, and it took place on one of the scariest rides ever built. Known mostly as the slingshot, it's a ride that fires you into the air with what seems like massive bungee cables that sit on either side of a cage that you're sitting in. Well, on the way down, one of the cables snapped and the cage smashed into one of the large metal beams that hold the ride in place. This caused one of the people inside to break their leg. Not to mention they were stuck in there for over an hour while they waited to be rescued by firefighters. I don't think this was the thrill that they were looking for. Coming in at number 7, we have Katie Strikes Again. The first place we put on this list was with Katie turning an abandoned building into a playground, but that wasn't the only time that she did this. She actually has done this quite a few times, and I thought we should share another one because they're all pretty amazing, and they do scare the hell out of me. This time, her and her crew of thrill seekers ended up on a massive abandoned ship. The ship itself looked cool as hell, and there should be no surprise that they were successful to turn it into an abandoned playground. Dude, I wish I could do that. She climbs up there so quickly and then just takes off running. I would be wheezing so hard if I could even make it to the top of that thing. Coming in at number 6, we have the Marching Men. The thing about a playground is once it gets left behind, the pieces just stay there. People don't come in and clean it up afterwards. It just stays a hulking mess in the middle of nowhere, and then you get pictures like this. I couldn't find out exactly where in the world this was taken from, but it really creeps me out. These marching men look like they were just brought to life and they're gonna rise out of the water and come kill us. It's like that episode of Simpsons where they go to Itchy and Scratchy Land and all the robots get a thirst for murder and they start killing everyone. How do they save the day in that episode? I think I should rewatch it just in case that becomes our reality. Coming in at number 5, we have Exploring with CF. Going to some of these places is like taking a peek at what the world would look like after climate change kills us all and we have a shell of our former civilization. This is the vibe I got from our next point. I pulled it from the YouTube page Exploring with CF, and the park itself isn't that spooky. I mean, it's dangerous because it's all run down with a bunch of rust on everything. One wrong move and you could have a jagged piece of metal stab right through your arm and then just bleed out on the ground. But what freaked me out about this is how end of the world the whole video feels. I mean, the host is wearing a backpack and hiking boots and kinda looks like he's ready for the world to collapse. It's almost like, was this video taken in a timeline where the world fell apart and everything is like The Last of Us? Coming in at number 4, we have Holy Land, USA. It should be no surprise that there was a Christianity theme park in the good old US of A that opened up in 1950, and it should be no surprise that for 30 years this place was massively popular. Really, the place was a huge hit until the owner died, and then a whole bunch of creepy stuff started happening. There was a dead body found on the ground in the theme park, and there were rumors that the whole place was cursed. Yeah, no thank you. I don't need to go check that out anytime soon. Coming in at number 2, we have One More Time with Katie. Okay, this is the last Katie McDonald video on the list, but they are so high quality, I almost think that 3 is not enough. For this abandoned playground, her and her crew went off to an amusement park in Cleethorpes in the United Kingdom. Okay, this one, even though I don't think I have the upper body strength to be able to climb and do those things, it does seem like a lot of fun. It makes me want to go up there and climb and run around on those slides, but if I did do that, that place would for sure be cursed because I would fall to my death and then my stubborn ghost would be floating around that place until the end of time. Coming in at the number 1 spot, we have the Bulblo Amusement Park. And what better way to follow up our last point and fill out the number 1 spot on this list than another amusement park that has been forgotten. This place was open for nearly 100 years, but has been forgotten since the year 1993. The place was shut down when one of the owners was nearly killed in a car accident. Since then, there's been a looming feeling of misfortune around the whole place. This is a place you shouldn't go check out unless you're looking for something creepy to keep you up at night. Coming in at number 10, there's some ghosts in this house. I'm gonna make a horror themed remix of WAP, and it's going to be my theme song for all of these top 10 videos from now on. What do you think the horror version of WAP is? If you guys have some ideas, throw them in the comments below. But back to the ghosts on the playground. There was a YouTuber who goes by the name Al Capone 3 who wanted to check out an abandoned playground. Why was this place left to rot while other playgrounds are flourishing with kids? Well, because this one had a very spooky presence inside of it.
Holy crap. Can you tell me your name and my camera?
Whoa! That's just 10 seconds of his investigation. This dude goes all over this playground and finds a bunch of ghouls that are hiding from the spectral realm. Yeah, I don't think I would take my kids to this place anytime soon. I don't even have kids, so I don't even know what I'm talking about. You would go there with a sweet little kid who loves to run around on jungle gyms, and then you would come home with Blazar the Demon King. Coming in at number 9, we have Octopus of Doom. That sounds like the title of a horror movie from 1951. It had 8 arms and it came from the depths below, and it eats a bunch of people and then the hero kills it with something that doesn't make sense, like a mercury current or something like that. But this playground version of a horror movie that I just made up right now looks a whole lot spookier. Like, what is the purpose of that giant turquoise octopus with red pits for eyes? It looks like a bunch of kids would come in there and then pray to it every night to make sure it doesn't come to life and eat all of their parents. Bring the 8-armed god an offering so it may be pleased. If we do not do the ritual, it will seek vengeance and the existence of men will be no more. I can't imagine a lot of kids would want to spend their day playing at this playground and then not have trouble sleeping the next night. I mean, I'm going to have nightmares just from looking at a picture of this thing. Coming in at number 8, we have swings are always fun. It seems no matter how old you get, the swings will always be fun. It doesn't matter if you're 4 years old, 40 years old, or if you're a dead immortal ghost. Anything that sees a swing set wants to jump on one of these bad boys and see how high they can get it into the air.
जो भतीजे ये देख भाई गांड फट रही भाई मेरी भाई ये क्या था चिन्ह तुझे पार्क स्कूल में जाना
And as you can see in this clip, there's a ghost in this playground that is trying to do the full loop. This clip was uploaded by Raul Singh, and it seems that he is very freaked out by this. But I think that this ghost just loves attention and wants to build a crowd before he goes for the full loop. If I saw something like that, you better believe I would keep walking and not even turn and look at this thing. If ghosts are doing spooky stuff, just let it happen. You don't need to get involved. Coming in at number 7, we have Faces of Death. This is a little bit of a dramatic title for what you're you're about to see, but this abandoned playground really freaked me out. This place is cursed not so much because I think there's some spirit waiting around to ruin your life, but because the look of the playground makes my skin crawl. Look at those creepy monkey faces. Why are they like that? What's going on here? It looks like if you stand there and look into their eyes for too long, they will take your soul and then you'll be left a husk of your former self. Not to mention this place is a certified death trap. Any kid who would try to play on this thing would end up falling through those metal bars and having a jagged piece of metal lodged in their shoulder. Coming in at number 6, we have the Pentagram Playground. If you want to perform a satanic ritual, could you do it somewhere where kids aren't going to be playing all the time? Like, I know you want to corrupt the souls of the young for your dark army, but could you do it in the forest or something so you can catch the kids that are misbehaving and venture too deep into the woods? Well, this next picture will make you want to spritz some holy water on your kids after they come home from playing. I don't know what this guy is up to all by himself in the playground, but it looks like he's trying to summon a demonic presence to play with him on the playground, which is actually kind of sweet, you know? You don't have any friends, so you just summon one. Coming in at number 5, we have Duck Duck, no thanks. This broken down playground has one of those spring ride things. You know, the one that's like normally a horse or some kind of animal. It's on a spring, it goes back and forth like you guys know what I'm talking about. Well, this one is a duck and it looks like it was recently shot out of the gates of hell. You can tell by the weeds growing out of every inch of this playground that this playground is for sure abandoned. And you can tell by the lifeless face on this duck that is ready to kill you as soon as no one is looking. This looks like a place Freddy Krueger would take you before he cuts you open and uses your insides to decorate his Christmas tree. Does Freddy Krueger celebrate Christmas? Someone in the comments let me know, please. Coming in at number 4, we have Get Out of My Playground. The YouTubers War Torn Productions decided that they would go check out a playground late at night to see what it has to offer. And it turns out there was a bunch of spooky stuff going on in there.
Can you please give us a sign?
Okay.
Where did that come from? Came from us.
That is just a little bit of what was going on there. This group managed to find some swings moving on their own, and a couple times they called out to whatever was there, and they definitely got a response. That would be a great cue to leave. I don't know why people want to talk to ghosts so much. Just let the dude chill in this playground at night, then you don't have to worry about being cursed by a vengeful spirit. Coming at number 3, we have Don't Get Any Closer. So the YouTube channel Horror Adventure wanted to go explore some creepy playgrounds, and they went all the way in the woods to do this, in the middle of the night. Well, if they were looking for something creepy, they definitely found it. They see what looks like a little kid just chilling out there in the woods, but then they turn off their car headlights and they turn them back on, and this creepy ghost kid moves closer to them. They do this a couple more times, and then he gets closer and closer each time. Eventually, the video just ends, and who knows, maybe they didn't make it out of there alive. Well, they for sure did because they uploaded the YouTube video. And coming in at the number 2 spot, we have the Rake's Territory. Yeah, I don't know what you personally need to stop coming to a playground, but as soon as I saw something like this, it would for sure make me never want to come back there again. Someone is walking around with a little camera on a playground late at night, and they might have spotted the Rake. If you don't know what the Rake is, it's a mythical creature from a creepypasta story that tries to eat kids. And if you want to see what I'm talking about, well, here it is. Now that looks like it could have been photoshopped in, but even if that's a fake video, it's enough for me to make sure that I never head back to this place again. I don't need any surprise Rake encounters, thank you very much.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have this creepy doctor statue. This extremely creepy doctor statue was found in a playground in Russia. While I'm sure that it was meant to show children that doctors aren't scary or something like that, the execution certainly could have been better. Not only is this statue just bizarre looking, which adds an extra layer of creepiness, just having a doctor in a playground seems weird to me. Not to mention the fact that I quite literally have no idea what he is supposed to be holding in his hand. And also, his facial features are very confusing to me. All in all, I'm not sure what to make of this one, but I'm sure it has appeared in at least one child's nightmares. In our number 8 spot today, we have a ritual. If you were to make a list of things you didn't want to see on a playground, I feel like this one would definitely be on that list. There unfortunately isn't a lot that is known about this photo, but one thing is definitely for certain, and that is that some kind of ritual is going down on this playground. It honestly seems like a playground is the most evil place to do a creepy ritual, so just alone the thought of that is definitely creepy enough, but the addition of how they are standing in the middle of the pentagram leaves me with such an eerie feeling. Like, why stand like that? People don't stand like that normally. Since not a lot is known about this photo, I'm just gonna pretend like nothing extremely sinister is happening. In our number 7 spot today, we have a crime scene. What was most likely a completely normal playground before has turned into something very eerie after what looks like a large fire. Having the crime scene tape around a playground is never a good look, but the charring of the ground and the structure definitely makes it worse. It is unclear what exactly started this fire, but either way, whether it was a person or some kind of accident, it certainly is quite creepy and very frightening. In our number 6 spot today, we have this rusty play structure. These photos come from a playground in Russia, and I feel like I need a tetanus shot just from looking at them. This whole playground is made from recycled scrap metal, which is amazing in theory, but I feel like I would not want my kids playing here. Between how rickety the structures look, all of the rust, and the fact that honestly, I'm not even sure how you would play on some of these, it just seems like maybe this playground is just a lot more fun from afar. In our number 5 spot today, we have these unsettling structures. This photo comes from a playground that honestly just has the creepiest looking structures for seemingly no reason at all. I'm sure the weathering of these structures haven't done them any favors, and perhaps these structures are just modeled after familiar characters in the country where this photo is from, but with no context, these are really strange. I feel like if this was the playground in my neighborhood as a kid, I probably wouldn't have asked to go to the park very often. I have honestly stared at this photo for so long trying to figure out what that one in the back with the really big head is. I cannot figure out what is going on with that one at all. And I think the graffiti that is on whatever the structure is in the front definitely just makes it even creepier when we really didn't need any help with that. In our number 4 spot today, we have this ghost swing. This video comes from the Twitter user Farlina L. Carroll, and it shows a playground at a resort with one really creepy thing going on. There's just one swing swinging around by itself, and not just a little bit, it is really going. There's another swing right beside it, so it can't be the wind that is pushing this one swing seat around. I'll show you what I'm talking about so you can see for yourself. Do you see what I mean about this one being kind of unexplainable? I really am not sure at all how this could be happening or how they could have faked it. The entire video is a full minute long and the swing is moving around like that the entire time. At one point it even picks up in speed for a little bit and then slows back down again. It is seriously very uncomfortable to watch. In our number 2 spot today, we have hate symbols. In February of this year, a playground in Palm Coast, Florida saw some pretty disturbing behavior. A mother in the area who often brings her children to that playground got quite the shock one Sunday when she brought her children to play and they were greeted by a bunch of obscene vandalism. The graffiti depicted different hate symbols and vulgar messages, which is truly just disgusting. I can't think of any reason why someone would think that this is okay to do at all, let alone on a playground for children. Unfortunately, the security cameras of nearby buildings weren't able to catch any of this illegal activity, so it's possible that the people who did this will not end up being caught. In our number 1 spot today, we have needles and thumbtacks. In August of 2020, the police were called to a playground in Woodstock, Ontario after someone reported finding hundreds of sewing needles and thumbtacks in a playground. This one is seriously disturbing and really upsetting. They were apparently around on the ground, but also placed on the structures, slides, and swing set, so it's very obvious that it was a deliberate act. I truly can't think of why anyone would want to do something so terrible, but apparently this isn't even the first time that this park has had that issue. I'm just really glad that no one got hurt and that one mom was able to spot this issue before things got worse. The city, of course, closed the park right away and quickly cleaned everything up in order to ensure every child and parent's safety. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have socks. This story comes from a Redditor and it definitely isn't the most terrifying thing ever, but there's just something super strange and kind of intriguing about it, so I obviously had to tell you guys about it since we're besties. Basically, this Redditor who goes by the username Park in the Nest explained that one day after the amusement park they worked at had closed for the night, they found a backpack. They were clearly feeling brave because they opened the bag. I personally would have left it there and called the bomb squad or something, but hey, some might call me an overreactor. Anyway, so this person opens up this bag and just finds like 100 black socks. That's it. Again, I know it's not scary, you don't have to tell me that, but I feel like I have at least 20 questions for this person who the backpack belongs to. Why? Why at an amusement park? I don't know anymore.
Number 9, a lost phone. This is why you never make your phone wallpaper personal, okay? Take notes, people. This one comes from a user named Kid Cougar, which is a great name. They had just finished working at Disneyland for almost 5 years, and during their time there, they of course saw some wild things turn up in Lost and Found, like a singular Yeezy shoe, keys to a Ferrari, or a wallet with $700 cash stuffed in it. Bonus points for the fact that they counted the cash, keeping it real, nice. One of the weirdest things they found though, and I'll say this is pretty haunting, was an iPhone with a nude as the wallpaper, a nude personal photo right there in the front. Could you imagine? What kind of freak must you be to have this on your phone? Imagine someone checking to see what battery you're at and you're like, oh yeah, you're at 87%. Also, nice. Better keep that brightness real low, Frank.
In our number 8 spot today, we have Bob Hope. Okay, me again with another one that's not terrifying, but it is absolutely hilarious. If you don't know who Bob Hope is, he was a British-American stand-up comedian, vaudevillian actor, singer, and dancer, and considering he lived to be 100 years old, his career ended up spanning over 80 years, which is just incredible. So how does this relate to today's video? Well, someone explained that one year when they worked at an amusement park, they kept finding little hidden pictures of Bob everywhere. In an ice bucket, on the rides, in cash registers, in the gardens, literally everywhere you can think of, these little Bob Hope pictures popped up. There's something so funny about it to me, like for a whole summer someone just dedicated their life to sneaking around hiding these little Bob Hope photos. I know I'm supposed to be talking about terrifying stuff today and I'm not doing that, so to add a little spooky element for ya, imagine if this person was finding photos of themselves instead of Bob Hope. Yeah, call the police.
Number 7, hair ties. There are thousands of hair ties at one end of the Animal Kingdom roller coaster Expedition Everest. I imagine because someone started some stupid tradition and people think doing dumb shit is a legacy. That's from an employee named Eclectic Said, and I have no idea why he's so mad about this. This guy is so rattled about hair ties for literally no reason. Well, I kinda get it. Let's talk. He was probably on the ride at one point, he had a great time, and then come the end of this journey, he sees this lovely tradition where riders then flick their hair ties in a frenzy of fun, and this guy is just salty he couldn't participate. Maybe he's bald, who knows? But to be fair, it does look like crap now. I just did a video on global warming and how humans are the worst, and Expedition Everest sure isn't helping this image. I mean, it literally looks like melting ice and we're tossing garbage onto it. It looks bad. Also, side note, keep your greasy summer day split ends to yourself. Nobody behind you on a roller coaster needs that in their face at any point. Thanks.
In our number 6 spot today, we have skin. Okay guys, I'm here with one that's actually terrifying now. I knew we could make it. This story comes from a Redditor, First Suite in E flat, and honestly, I'm just gonna read you what they wrote because I could not sum it up better than they did. They said, quote, I found a plastic baggie with cat skin in it. It was like one of those bear skin rugs. It was even pretty clean looking. Definitely not freshly skinned. I don't know how it got there, why it was there. I was pretty freaked out when I found it. Thought it was a dead animal. Well, First Suite in E flat, you absolutely do not have to explain to us why you were freaked out by that find. We understand. I have 2 questions about this one. Firstly, why does anyone have that at all? But secondly, why would you have that at a theme park? Imagine packing your bag like sunscreen, check. Water bottle, check. Cat skin? Oh, Dad, you forgot the cat skin again? We gotta turn this car around.
Number 5, an engagement ring. Ah yes, no finer place to propose to the love of your life than on the relaxing Space Mountain. Nice, must be loud. This next one comes from a user named I've Got 3 Division, and they say that they worked at Space Mountain for 10 years at Walt Disney World. And over time, they also found some pretty wild belongings. For example, pants. Just a pair of pants, which brings up so many more questions in my head. They also found maracas, okay, a corncob pipe, beer cans, and a Santa hat. And also a prosthetic leg. Gotta keep those arms and legs in the vehicle at all times, guy. Read the sign. Perhaps one of the most scariest items recovered was an engagement ring. Did they say yes? Did they ask mid-ride? If so, I need the footage of this. That's probably bad for your back or neck, turning and proposing mid-roller coaster. Also, your grip better be A1. Gorilla glue that thing to the box, then you're good. You can go upside down and be like, she said no, but it's fine.
In our number 4 spot today, we have bones. This find came from an abandoned theme park, and honestly, we can be grateful for that, because if it didn't, I'd have a lot more questions to ask. A Reddit user called My Mom is a Karen 123 posted a photo in a bone identification thread. The photo was of, well, bones, and the question they posed was, quote, what spine is this, found it in an abandoned theme park? There's something so hilarious about that to me, but it's also so creepy. They posted 3 separate photos of this tiny skeleton, which they so desperately needed to identify. Like I said before, I'm just glad this was found in an abandoned theme park and not an in-use one, because I would have had so many questions as to how an entire animal could have decomposed without anyone noticing until it was a skeleton. Also, in case you were wondering, the person took the skeleton to a museum for bone identification. I didn't know museums did that, but either way, it was a squirrel.
Number 3, a not so chill cooler. Remember when a bunch of archaeologists found a sarcophagus in Egypt and then they decided it would be a good idea to open it just because? Well, they found 3 skeletons inside and the smell was beyond horrible. Curiosity kills the cat, and for this amusement park employee, it definitely ruined their entire week. This Reddit user shared their story about closing up one night after guests had left the park. They were cleaning the picnic shelter and came across a cooler. Now normally this is not a bizarre find, families roll through here often, people need a place to keep things fresh, but when he opened it, he didn't see anything fresh. That's when the trouble began, in fact. Just like that ancient Egyptian sarcophagus, this cooler did not smell great. It was filled with puke, like a lot of puke. They said a lot, so whatever you think that looks like in your head, there you go, yuck. It was one of the most disgusting things I have ever seen. Yeah, nobody's gonna fight you on that, poor soul. I don't know who I feel bad for more here, the person who made the mess or the person who found it. Either way, this is all bad. Also, I'll take a Coke. Thanks.
In our number 2 spot today, we have a missile? This one comes from another Redditor, of course, because that's where all of the wildest stories tend to come from. Basically, the theme park they were visiting has been abandoned for a decent amount of time, and the land it sits on is privately owned. There are a ton of no trespassing signs around, but this Redditor, who grew up close to the abandoned park and drove by it every day, decided that they had enough of guessing what may be in there, and one day decided to actually go and check it out. They said that the park contained a lot of weird stuff, like, quote, old rusted out cars that hadn't moved in years with fresh brand new number plates on them, a bamboo fencing inside these wooden teepees that looked like it was freshly installed despite these teepees sitting dormant for decades, but the weirdest thing that they said that they found was this weird missile looking thing. When someone brought up the fact that perhaps it was once a decoration for a ride, the OP replied that this theme park was basically all like children's fairy tales and folklore and that sort of a thing, so no real reason for whatever this is, real or not, to be there. The item was found inside of a fenced box that also contained things like bikes for toddlers and washing machines. I don't know, this place sounds weird.
And finally, number 1, Winnie the Pooh's ear. This next one is just not for the faint of heart, guys. This user named Hiribi shared their experience where they had to shut down operations for an entire day, all to remove Winnie the Pooh's ear. Tragic. Disney is full of silly hats and even sillier headbands with ears on them. It's a great time. All the silly ears you can think of. Mickey, Minnie, Winnie, the Aristocats. It's a great look until one of those ears falls off into a dangerous part of the ride and then everybody's life is at risk. The thing is the size of a Dorito and guests had to leave the line. They had to shut down for an entire day. How dare you, Winnie? This sounds silly, but ride shutdowns are no joke. Time is money at an amusement park, and that's why soft drinks are $18. Now it's starting to make sense. Pooh's Honey Hunt at Disneyland Tokyo cost about $120 million to build. That's like 40 funnel cakes. It's not cheap.
In our number 10 spot, we have the Pripyat Amusement Park. Ever ever heard of a town called Pripyat? Well, I'd be surprised to hear that you haven't, as this is a very known town around the world as a very horrible disaster once occurred there. I am speaking, of course, of the Chernobyl plant explosion that took place in 1986. Well, just before the explosion, Pripyat was planning on opening up an amusement park, the Pripyat Amusement Park, and the opening was scheduled for 5 days after the day that the explosion happened. Well, as you can imagine, the explosion was so bad that the amusement park plans were turned upside down. The park owners opened the park for 1 day to try to distract everyone from the horrible disaster, but as you can imagine, as everyone fled, the park closed and never reopened. The Ferris wheel is still standing there today, and there are dark tours that go through the park and the abandoned town. In our number 9 spot, we have Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. Lake Shawnee Amusement Park was located in West Virginia, and it was open from 1926 till 1966. This park ended up closing because it began to hold a horrible reputation, as a few killings happened on its grounds. One accidental, one seemingly not, and apparently others that haven't been confirmed, but nonetheless, this began to make visitors uncomfortable, and so the park shut down. People believe it to be haunted by the ghosts of the young ones that passed away there, but also people believe that the land was cursed from the start, as there was a quarrel between a First Nation tribe and a European settler once in this area. It had a brutal history from 1783, where the Shawnee Native American tribe ended up killing the offspring of the first man that made a home in their area, named Mitchell Clay. But there is so much more to the story, as apparently the park was built on a Native American burial ground, and many young ones were buried there. People believe these ghosts could be haunting the park too, but in any case, no one can deny that the park, even today, feels haunted. In our number 8 spot, we have Joyland Amusement Park. Located in Kansas, the Joyland Amusement Park was one of the biggest when it opened in 1949. 57 acres, in fact. It was doing very well until a lot of ride-related deaths started occurring. Then there was a massive scandal where an employee was killed by some people visiting the park, and that caused a lot of unwanted press. Then an employee was injured by a roller coaster, and finally someone fell off of a Ferris wheel in 2004. As you can imagine, all of these incidents led to lawsuits and eventually financial ruin for the park, where they then had to shut down. Apparently the park was purchased in 2018 with plans to turn it into a concert venue / wedding venue, but man, I hope they have had like 10 priests bless this ground first before they open it. In our number 7 spot, we have Dreamland Park. The Dreamland Park was located in Pennsylvania, and it opened in 1939. When this park opened, it didn't have too many attractions as you would imagine a typical amusement park to have. The park only had a roller rink, a band theater, a few rides, and a small car race track, and some picnic areas. In August of 1969 though, 2 people by the name of Marilyn Scheckler and Glenn Eckert were killed on the premise, and that is where the park began to have a reputation for being associated with gangs, gambling, and dark dealings. Another killing took place on the grounds in the 90s, and that is what led to the published non-fiction novel about the park. In our number 6 spot, we have the Magic Harbor Park. Here is another abandoned park with a dark history. Magic Harbor, located near Myrtle Beach, opened in 1954. In 1976, one of the owners and his son were fatally injured by an employee of the park, which resulted in them both passing away. After this horrible incident, the wife of the park owner did not want to continue running the park, so it went into foreclosure and the bank took over. It was eventually bought out again, but in 1984, another tragedy happened where a young girl passed away after falling off a ride, and the park was sued for $12 million. With its poor reputation and now horrible financial issues, the park eventually closed. In our number 5 spot, we have Holy Land, USA. This is an old Christian theme park, as you may have deduced from the title. Holy Land. It opened in 1960, and apparently the theme park contained replicas of famous scenes from the Bible, such as the Garden of Eden, the Last Supper, etc. A large cross was placed on a hill and a big sign with its name on it that is apparently hard to miss if you're driving along Interstate 84 in Waterbury, Connecticut. Apparently the park was a hit and a Baptist owned it. makes sense. And he originally closed the park in the 80s to work on expanding it, but then he passed away. Nuns of the area were maintaining the grounds, but over the years it got worse and worse due to vandalism and an unfortunate killing that took place under the cross. In our number 4 spot we have Brandywine Springs. The Brandywine Springs amusement park opened in 1886 in Williamton, Delaware, and it was a good example of what you can imagine as good, clean fun. The park had a wooden roller coaster, a train, restaurants, a castle house, and much more. The park was a hot spot until a tragedy occurred when an employee and another male was fatally injured, and this certainly changed the park for good. The park closed in 1923 around the time that cars became more available to the average person, which made it easier for people to travel, and then they would find new adventures elsewhere and not spend their time/money at the park. Apparently the park is in ruins at the moment, but there are plans to put up signs and photographs of where the major attractions once stood so that people that walk through it can learn a little about its history. Well, that's fun. Maybe you're not prohibited from visiting this one. In our number 3 spot we have Kojonuma Leisureland. Once a very popular amusement park in Japan, eventually it turned into something quite dark. It had all of the fun amusement park rides and was beloved by many, despite its ghost stories. Unlike many of the other parks here, the park only closed in 2000 due to a drop in visitors, which is believed to be the cause of Japan's declining birth rate and the economic crisis. However, there is a strange urban legend about the park that is still told today that has urban explorers wanting to visit the land. Apparently there is a lake by the park that is known to have a large snake population, and as the legend goes, a pregnant woman who lived near there gave birth to a serpent baby who escaped into the water, and every night the woman would hear the baby cry. It drove her mad and she ended up taking her own life in the lake, and it was her ghost that people believed haunted the park. Dark. People have reported hearing her and her serpent baby's cries. In our number 2 spot we have Rocky Point Amusement Park. Rocky Point Amusement Park, located in Warwick, Rhode Island, opened in 1847 and didn't close till 1995. It had a long history of over 150 years of being active, and it attracted a lot of very famous guests who performed there over the years. Some of the later guests you would know include Pat Benatar, the Ramones, and a personal fave of mine, the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It only had one killing on site ever recorded, and it was in 1893 when a clinically insane man fatally injured his daughter. The park was so popular that eventually people forgot about the incident. This is one park that would honestly just be sad to visit because it seems like it was so cool. I don't wish sadness for you, so don't go and visit it. In our number 1 spot we have Gulliver's Kingdom. Gulliver's Kingdom, an amusement park in Japan that opened in 1997 near the base of Mount Fuji, is probably the creepiest park I have ever seen. I mean, the park was based off of a book called Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift, and so I bet the park wouldn't feel as creepy for people that have read the book. The park famously had a giant lying on its back, a picture that we can assume is taken from the book. The park existed for only about 10 years before it closed due to the park just not resonating with the people as the owners thought it would. Honestly, an idea like this feels too big for the 90s. People are way more open now creatively, so I bet it would be a hit these days. Instagram was invented a little too late. At this point the park has been demolished, so it's no longer a site for urban explorers, but the pictures of this very chilling park will live on in our brains forever.